What we have here is a display of 3 historic and 1 modern keyboard instrument. We've got a harpsichord over here, a late 18th century style piano over here, and a small double-strung clavichord here, and then, of course, a modern Hamburg Steinway. They make them in New York. They also make them in Hamburg, Germany. And I thought it would be a great idea just to see the relative size of the instruments, especially to see how much the piano has grown from this piano to the one right to my left. It would probably be a good idea maybe to start, though, by looking at the clavichord. Now, this is the oldest stringed keyboard instrument we know of. We see pictures of clavichords in the late Middle Ages, and we know that these instruments were popular in one form or another straight up to around the year 1800 and after. The instrument I have right here is a replica of a German clavichord made about 1600. And the sound is very small. The clavichord was never meant to be a public instrument. It was meant to be a private instrument to be played alone or for the listening pleasure of a small number of your best friends, and maybe a very small voice could sing with it. As you can see, the clavichord is just a rectangular box with strings in it. If I open it up like this, I could put a book of music here if I wanted to. And on this instrument, there are 2 strings for every note. But there's a catch there. And that means that some of the keys share the same set of strings. And for that reason, we call it a fretted clavichord. Just like frets on a guitar, where several notes are gotten from one string. For example, F, F sharp, and G are all gotten from the same string. That gives us, to be sure, some disadvantages. You can't play those notes together, but the older music doesn't require them. What it does give us, advantage-wise, is that it makes for less strings to tune, and also for less tension on this resonating box, so the sound from the soundboard here is a lot freer. It sounds like this. Instruments like this were popular from the late Middle Ages all the way to almost after 1800, when historical keyboard instruments like the ones we have here today kind of went into oblivion. But this instrument also would come in larger sizes as time went on. So the clavichords that we have in the 1700s are proportionately bigger than the ones we had about 1600 or so. Here we have a harpsichord, and it has 1 keyboard. Many people have probably seen harpsichords that have 2 keyboards. That really just adds another set of strings to the instrument and fulfills different expressive requirements, but fundamentally it's all the same. Now, unlike the clavichord, whose action you could see a second ago striking the strings, on the harpsichord it plucks the string just like you might do on a guitar. And to that end, harpsichord's action looks like this. Just like the clavichord, every note's got 2 choirs of strings, except here, every note's got its own 2 independent set of strings. There's no such thing as a fretted harpsichord. And when I play a key, it levers up a device here called a jack, just like Jack and Jill. And when I take that jack out, in it is a flexible tongue. And in that tongue is a tiny little guitar pick, which we call a plectrum. And that tongue is flexible. It can move so that after I've played my note, that plectrum can fall back over the string. Now you'll hear sort of a pa-da there. The strings are staggered, and that makes for a more sensitive touch on the harpsichord. If you had to muscle down both strings at the same time, the sound wouldn't be as attractive and the player wouldn't have as much control. But these instruments date, as far as we know, from the end of the 15th century, that's the 1400s, all the way to the 1790s, when the harpsichord pretty well went out of fashion and was only brought back into fashion in the 20th century. The stringing in this instrument is brass all the way through, as is the case with the clavichord. And this is a sort of an interesting instrument. It was made by a man named Willard Martin from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And he made it from plans that come from the year 1617. A French fellow named Mersenne designed this instrument. We don't know whether he ever built it or not, but enough instruction existed that Martin could reconstruct this instrument in the 20th century. This particular one was made in Pennsylvania in 1997. And harpsichords can vary from a kind of a delicate lute-like whisper to a pretty brilliant sound. I'll play you a little 16th century dance from the Antwerp Dance Book of 1587, and you'll get an idea of what it sounds like. It's said sometimes that ladies who are less than svelte should dress in slimming black. And we have no better example of that than the modern grand piano and the piano as Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart or Joseph Haydn or the young Ludwig van Beethoven knew it. This piano is a replica of two different instruments. One lives in a museum in Nuremberg in Germany, the other one lives in a museum in Vienna. And they were both made by a man named Anton Walter, spelled just like Walter. He was the one who made the instrument that Mozart finally bought. As you can see, this instrument has 58 notes, whereas the modern piano has 88 notes. So we're 30 notes gone, but this has everything you need to play all the classical period music straight up to almost middle period Beethoven. That's for historical time, probably around 1800. And this is indeed a piano, though I should show you the action to give you an idea of the difference.